Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. A lot has happened in Afghanistan in the past couple of weeks. There is a new government in place, which is something that needs a little analysis to understand who they are, why they are, and what they are going to do. I have with me Irfan Yar, who is the founder and managing director for the Afghanistan Security Institute in Canada, as well as on the advisory board and a lecturer in the Global Counterterrorism Institute in USA. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Ati. Thank you.
So, as I was saying, there is a new government in Kabul, and there are rumors of a huge amount of infighting which is happening within the Taliban top brass as well, which is also giving out a lot of questions on their ability to actually control. We had the government which was supposed to be formed about 2 weeks back. Suddenly, there was a press conference that was called, and the whole thing was announced. It seems a little haphazard. What is your thoughts in this entire thing?
Yeah. So as far as the Taliban government is concerned, as I mentioned, they would not expecting Kabul to be falling so quickly, which, happened. And it not only surprised the world, but it also surprised the Taliban government or the Taliban leadership itself. And this is why they were not a shadow cabinet, because once they would be in power, at least they would know who would be occupying which position in the government. So first, it took them a long time, to identify their ministers and other, high-level officials. And there were also, some conflicts among those members. And most of the people were expecting that it would be Mullah Biradar, who was very famous face in the Taliban leadership, to be the political leader. But unlike the expectation, it came out to be someone else. Even though he, the so-called prime minister, Akhundzada, who was also a key figure in the Taliban leadership, however, he was not very, well known publicly. So it was not only the expecting prime minister, but there were many other shifts in the cabinet. For example, another key figure which most of the world I think know was the Stanekzai, and who was also the political head of head of the Doha political office, but he was not appointed to the level which people expected. So right now he is the deputy foreign minister, and most of the people were appointed from the Haqqani network, who also played a key role in the Taliban insurgency in Afghanistan. And as far as the Haqqani network are concerned, they are very notorious. But since they will be ruling the Afghan government, so it will have its own consequences, which is another issue that we can discuss.
Sure. That is what my next question is. As a matter of fact, there are 17 designated terrorists by the United Nations which are there on this. I don't know if I would want to call it a government or a cabinet or whatever they want to actually, or a council, or however they want to, term it. There are two things that I want to bring out here. One is the Taliban that sure that they will be able to coax the world to get these guys out of the terror watch lists. Before the government was formed, there was quite a decent amount of support that was coming out of Iran and Russia as well. But post this, there's been a change, and then everybody's got up and said, okay, this is not all right. How do you see this entire situation?
Well, yeah. So as you rightly mentioned, many countries like Iran who were seeming to be having good relationship with the Taliban. However, after their cabinet was announced, there seems to be a little bit, not inclination, toward the Taliban. And I think this is mostly because of the Taliban, announced cabinet. In many countries, who also, designated those countries as terrorists, those leaders as terrorists, they are also now, reluctant to recognize the Taliban as a legitimate government. But I think it should not be surprising, that those people are, designated as terrorists for many countries, because even the Taliban organization or the Taliban insurgency, this was also, a terrorist organization, and it still is. So it is very obvious that their member will be terrorists, for many countries. So if they can remove the Taliban organization, from their blacklist as a terrorist organization, so they can certainly remove, those key figures from their blacklist as well. But I think, what is more surprising, the role that media has played, one, in their notorious history, as I mentioned, because the Haqqani network was very infamous for its suicide attackers. And again, it should not be surprising, because the Taliban used, any tool at their disposal, to suppress its enemies. And of course, the Haqqani network was mostly a military wing of the Taliban rather than the political wing. So that was their main job, to suppress the enemy as brutal as possible, and they were, their main responsibilities. So what can you expect from a terrorist group or a insurgent organization rather than, waging war, especially for the military leaders? This was their job, and they were, in their eyes, performing them in their best way. So, but right now, I think what is more important, to see what's happening in the upcoming months, since they seems to be more moderate than they were, and we cannot, have guarantees, because future is away from us. So right now, it's too early whether to recognize the Taliban as a legitimate government or keep them in isolation. And I think both of these decisions should be taken, by a lot of precautions, because if we keep the Afghan government, the current Afghan government, which is formed by the Taliban, isolated, it has its own consequences for the Afghan people. So maybe at one way you are trying to avoid the so-called terrorists, but on the other hand, they are now tied to the lives of almost 35 million Afghans. They are the one who will decide what their future is. And if the government is suffering, it will also mean that the Afghan people are suffering, be it from social crisis, political or economic crisis.
True, that's true. The cost of all this mayhem or chaos is going to be at the, at the lives of the Afghan people, and it's that's the one thing which is heartbreaking actually in this whole entire thing that has come out, because a lot of the innocent people who probably don't even understand what has happened, but they understand that there is going to be a stick on their head from now on. Their lives are going to be changed forever. I'd like you to actually take the Haqqani network a little forward, keeping their hardline approach, valid. There are rumors of sort of a fight or a bitter disagreement that took place between this network and the head of the Doha team, which is Mullah Baradar. And as you mentioned in one of your answers, that most of the ministers are Haqqani, so they've been able to get their way. How that happened with external help is something that I'd like to discuss later on. But what do you see the Haqqani network today trying to do in terms of usurp the power in the nation? And how would they handle all these protests which are coming across the nation?
Well, as I mentioned, the Haqqani network has played a critical role in the Taliban insurgency, especially in eastern Afghanistan, because they were responsible, for those region, and they were very successful in terms of, taking many parts of that side under their control. And now that the Taliban, since they were fighting in the military, so obviously and naturally, most of the casualties would be from their group. And now that they come to power, they say, well, everyone should be compensated or, given a right according to their ability. So it means they lost a lot of people. So naturally they would claim, the lion's share, because they were, even the leadership, they said, from their families, even, many members were killed in the war, so they deserve more power or more authority. So that was one of the reasons. Secondly, it is not that only the Haqqani network occupied, the key position. uh, it's there seems to be a good balance, because between different parts or the region of Taliban's leadership, from Kandahar or southern Afghanistan, from eastern, and from the other part of the region. There seems to be a little bit representation. However, despite that representation, the Haqqani network is still highlighted, and I think it's because the because of the mainstream media, because they would just focus on that group, and also ignore many other members. But we would also know, that their appointment on such high level offices would have impact on Afghan society and also on their foreign relationship. So it is something that one should be concerned about it.
Indeed, with their reputation preceding them, that is, I think, one of the reasons why everybody is trying to focus on them. And with them controlling the interior ministry, that just tells you that they have their hand on the 35 million people in Afghanistan and their lives and their futures, and especially with what we see happening around us. One of the biggest things about forming a government is actually governing it after that. Governance, the Taliban has not come out with policies in terms of how they want to run the place. It seems to be that they were not planned for such a swift takeover. They thought they will kind of force their way through a little bit, little by little, and as they go forward, they'll prepare their plans and everything like that. That's one of the reasons why we see the chaos which is happening there, because there's been no planning. There's How do you think they're going to go forward and actually handle the big humanitarian crisis coming in front of them? There are countries that are giving some aid, $31 million from China, a couple of $1 million yesterday. I think it was announced from the UK a couple of hours ago. That's just too small for the requirement, actually. So how is the Taliban going to handle this entire thing?
Well, even though there are many challenges, to the Taliban, however, the governing, challenge is, I would say, perhaps the biggest challenge for the Taliban. And to run a country, this is not an easy task, especially for a group who had no experience, previously, and who were an insurgent group, especially the Taliban. And even though they had, a shadow government when they were insurgency, however, it was kind of a ghost government, where not with a real or functional strategies or policies, but that is totally different from a real government, which they seems to be taking the responsibility of. And most of the ministries, people in those ministries, other educated bureaucrats and autocrats, most of them left the country because they were too much terrified. Even though the Taliban announced general amnesty, however, those people were still afraid, and they preferred to leave the country. And now there is a big gap to fill that. So from one side, the Taliban are not capable of running the Afghan government mostly, and on the other side, people are not willing that much to cooperate with those groups, especially the educated class, because they are, as I said, too much terrified from the Taliban history, and they think that they will maybe impose the same policies, or they will descend into economic crisis, so they better think of their future. So that rather than, it was like a rational decision for that group. But there are still a significant portion of the educated people and the bureaucrats who are still present in Afghanistan. And even though the Taliban are trying to bring them back, on board, but the process seems to be slow. And that is because of many reasons. One, because of the Taliban weak leadership, especially on the ministerial level. For example, the higher education minister, Sheikh Abdul Baqi Haqqani, who was very much criticized because of some of his remarks. He mentioned that a PhD or a master level students or person is in no way compared to an Islamic educated student. So he was kind of demeaning the significance of official education, which for which he faced a lot of criticism. So if he makes such remarks and he is the minister for higher education, so how he would expect a professor or a teacher to be teaching under his leadership if he's not respecting his position or his knowledge? So this kind of things need a little bit more careful terminology, careful diplomacy to convey those message, which the Taliban at this point seems to be lacking. So such kind of example shows that the Taliban still are not capable of running the government properly. And we also see a little bit economic crisis in Afghanistan, at least for now, and which is that a big portion of the Afghan treasury, which was I think 7 billion or 8 billion, were frozen, which is abroad. So the Taliban have no money. There is no more dollars flowing from Washington to Kabul, which has brought the value of Afghan currency very much down. And to run a government, you still need a lot of money. And Afghanistan historically has always been dependent on foreign aid, to run its government. But now that the EU has left Afghanistan, the Taliban are looking for other alternatives, and potentially they see China is a great economic partner for their foreign aid. They have already expressed that the group want to have good relationship with them, and the Chinese response were also positive. So this will, mean that China will have greater influence, and the Afghanistan, which is under the Taliban. Even though if the United States, does not help Afghanistan, it is used to help, they will still have an option left. However, the big question is whether China will agree, to really in long term help the Taliban, because China is also very much, shrewd and careful in terms of its interest. So this is something, that will be decided how the Taliban, act in Afghanistan.
Indeed, and there is one innocuous player who's going to play pretty much a large role in terms of what and where the Taliban government is heading, and that is Pakistan. You mentioned China. One of the biggest things I think the Taliban will also look at is the situation in Sri Lanka, which is very concerning, which they've declared an economic emergency. So the Chinese influence can be detrimental for their own purposes as well. I'm sure they understand that because they've now been in a place where they've seen the world, having lived in a 5-star hotel in Doha for 10 years. So I'm sure they've picked up what is happening around the place. I'd like to talk about Pakistan for a little bit. How do you think, the world has accepted the fact that the Pakistanis have been, covertly supporting the Taliban at this thing? We've also heard news of Pakistani boots on the ground supporting the Taliban against the resistance in Panjshir. We've had the ISI chief visiting Kabul during the government formation. And Pakistan traditionally has had a lot of, I'm not saying this because I'm an Indian, but there is a clear belief of the fact within Kabul as well. Pakistan has had a direct influence amongst separatist groups or insurgent groups which were operating in Afghanistan. How do you think the Pakistan-Taliban relations are going to go forward? Because good as they are, there are also fault lines there.
So yeah, you mentioned rightly, since the birth of the Taliban, the Pakistan has been, a key and perhaps most influential, player who had close relationship with the Taliban. And during the insurgent, and also, when the Taliban were in power back in 1990s, the Taliban, the Pakistan was one of the state who officially recognized the Taliban, which of course, donate cannot nothing, but they are having good relationship with the group. And even when the Taliban were dislodged, in 2001 by the Americans, and they evolved, as an insurgency force, most of them were, staying in Pakistan. And just because of their personal relationship and because of their madrasa education affiliation, they were having very close relationship not only with the government of Pakistan but with the people of Pakistan, because their families were living there. But more importantly, Pakistan did tolerated the Taliban presence on their soil. They turned a blind eye, to cooperate with the Americans in real terms. And even though the Pakistani civilian government, at times said that they had no relationship with the Taliban and they always want, peace in Afghanistan. However, the reality were different. The military establishment, some say they have, the core power, and they were the one, who had close relationship and were supporting the Taliban. And I think there are a lot of examples and documented proofs that Pakistan has always been, one of the actors who collaborated with the Taliban. And just like many other states, like Iran was, in no way less than Pakistan, but it has support to the Taliban was different than Pakistan. So this is a fact which cannot be denied. Recently, however, Pakistan seems to be, trying to support the negotiation talk which just ended. With the great favor of with the great power by the Taliban. So Pakistan, and since you pointed out, the intelligence head visited before the cabinet was announced to Kabul, and even though Taliban said that his visit was more just to talk or express his concern about the flow of the Afghan refugees and the prisoner who were released, so they might put a risk to Pakistani interest in Pakistan. So they said that he was more talking about those kind of issues rather than bringing Pakistani influence to the Tali leadership. But I think there were something like in the matter, because what was expected, something different was announced. For example, nobody was expecting that much influence of Haqqani network as it happened. And it may be that it's possible, it's not sure, but that the Pakistani government has proposed the Taliban to appoint people and their cabinet who are more pro-Pakistan rather than more pro-Indian. Because and what make it more convincing is the Abbas Tanakzai, who was at one point educated at India, and he was relatively more liberal, but he seems to be having a position which was maybe not expected by people were expecting them at least to have foreign ministry, but he seems to be sidelined it. So it shows that there were some influence of Pakistani establishment with the Taliban. However, the Taliban have always denied that they are a sovereign group, and they will not let any country to influence their internal decision.
Interesting. Some say a lot of chances of an insurgency within Afghanistan against the Taliban is also in the pipeline. There is one of the things that is happened during this time is the information warfare has been played out very, very well by both the sides. That is something really interesting, which tells you that the electronic means, which was actually used as electronic jihad back in the days after 9/11, has been brought into a point where they are actually utilizing its full capacity. So that's very interesting. My last question to you, sir, with regards to the Americans, do you think today they have, I mean, they've got the capacity, but they have left a certain leverage for themselves to try and influence outcomes of various things within Afghanistan? How do you think they will try and control Afghanistan from sitting 8,000 miles away?
Well, there is no, direct leverage that they have got over the Taliban, because they were defeated militarily, and all of their troops are now out of the country, and the Taliban seems to be very tough, on what they want, especially when it comes to their sovereignty and the influence of foreign countries such as America, or for that matter, any Western country. They say that they will not tolerate anything. But I think America is a superpower. They still have some level of leverage, which is mostly their economic muscles, so they can put sanction on the Taliban and they can cripple the Taliban government, badly. So this is something, which will work very effectively, especially if Afghanistan has no other alternative to rely on. Even though if China come to the forefront, to help the Taliban, it will not be able, or it will not agree to offer as much help as the US, were doing to the country. And it is not only America, it's the all, Western allies who will follow what the US government says. So those kind of sanction are, removing or freezing the diplomatic relationship with the Afghanistan will have huge, a pressure on the Taliban government. But luckily the Taliban says that they want to have good relationship with the West. So I think it would have mattered more if the Taliban would, be against or still establishing its relationship with the West. But since they are saying that they want to have good relationship with America and its allies, and they are open to a diplomatic relationship, that can make things more easier until they meet, certain demands of the Western allies, which is respecting human rights, especially women rights and minority rights. So upon those conditions, the Western countries might decide how much to help the Taliban government in Afghanistan.
That's interesting. Can I just ask you one sub question? You mentioned something which said that the Taliban has mentioned that they would like to have good relations with the West. If I remember correctly, all these statements came out before the cabinet actually was announced, and were said by people like Stanikzai, and couple of statements that was released out of Mullah Baradur's side. Having them being, I won't say put aside, but sidelined in the mainstream, how much of an institute, how much of an influence would these moderates, if I may put it that way, have on the leadership to actually take forward these relationship-based decisions with the West and the other countries?
Well, yeah, most of the popular faces among the Taliban leadership was Zabihullah Mujahid and people like Stanakzai. And since now they have been appointed to lower, so-called, or at least lower position than people expected, but there still will be their influence, because Stanakzai, for example, is the deputy minister, and the deputy minister for foreign affairs, play a key role. In fact, in most of the countries, it is the deputy minister who will, technically run the ministry, and the minister itself can be a symbolic figure. So he still has chances, to convey his so-called moderate, or friendliness nature to the world. And since, the Taliban have announced their cabinet, they did not hold any international level, conference to convey its message, or at least I did not see, someone asking, the Taliban about how their relationship will be with the government. And I believe if they ask that question, the Taliban would reply most probably that they still want to have good relationship with the Western countries. So I don't think so. That has changed the fact. And later on, I think we will be witnessing that they will still express those kind of remarks. And this is no surprise, because even though some of the leaders might be still very hardcore, but they still are rational, actors. They will always now think to do something which is in the favor of their government, rather than keeping ideological differences.
I understand that, because at the end of it, what they are looking for, and this is something that they've been harping on, is for their recognition and legitimization
Exactly, and
as
power.
a government. Yes. So
Yeah.
I think they would do quite a bit in terms of giving that leeway to, of course, the people within Afghanistan, as well as the outside world, for a certain amount of influence on towards them to get that legitimacy. Um, Further, having said that, I also think that the legitimacy coming in from countries like Pakistan or any other country of that bloc would not actually help them quite a bit, because they are looking for legitimacy from the world that is not favoring them at the moment. So that is,
Correct.
I think, you've brought it out pretty well, because they are no matter whatever they do, they're in a place where people are hungry today. the money, as you mentioned, is pretty much coming down to a point where the value of it is very, very bad. The international world is pretty much trying to keep away with regards to having open and clear discussions. Everybody is on a wait and watch mode. There have been, military exercises that have been conducted around that nation again, passing a certain amount of message. The information warfare is at its heights. It's an interesting scenario which will tell us what is going to happen. And as you brought out very clearly, they are not very experienced in terms of governance. And the real test of the time or test of the water would be how far they can actually govern that country. If they're able to do it, it's going to be good for the Afghan people, and I wish them, the best to take care of the people there rather than anything else. And of course, we all hope as neighbors that they don't indulge in terrorism as what they say. How far that will come true, only time can tell. Irfan, thank you so much for joining me for this lovely discussion. I think you brought out some very, very interesting points, and our viewers would be very happy to see a different point of view coming in from somebody who's connected to the country as well. Thank you
very
for
much.
joining
It was
me.
a pleasure talking to you. Have a great day.
Thanks. Same to you.